You step outside one morning, and the For Lease signs stretch down every block. The Tim Hortons on the corner shuttered, streets that once buzzed with hockey tournaments and farmers' markets now feel like ghost towns after everyone moved away. What happened? Canada's economy is wobbling on a tightrope, and when it crashes, 10 cities won't just suffer. They'll collapse completely, taking entire regions with them. Number 10. Windsor, Ontario. A booming car town that once promised steady paychecks and job security, now hanging by a thread. You'd be shocked to see how fast neighborhoods go quiet when just one plant shuts down. Windsor is dangerously reliant on the automotive industry. Over 30% of its workforce is tied to vehicle manufacturing, and as factories automate or shift production to Mexico and Asia, Windsor teeters on the edge. The city's economy is deeply connected to cross-border trade. If that pipeline ever gets choked, even slightly, Windsor doesn't just slow down, it could stop cold. Recent closures have created a domino effect you can see block by block. When Stellantis announced major layoffs in 2023, entire neighborhoods felt the impact within weeks. Local restaurants lost customers, retail stores saw sales plummet, and for sale signs appeared on lawns across the city. Housing values have stalled as job security evaporates, leaving families trapped in homes they can't sell but can't afford to keep. But here's what might surprise you. This isn't just about one industry. It's about a city that built everything on four wheels, now spinning in place. Schools are closing, local businesses are struggling, and young people are leaving for Toronto or London. There's no plan B. Could Windsor become Canada's next cautionary tale? And what happens if another global disruption hits? Because for cities like this, recovery isn't guaranteed. While Windsor struggles with foreign competition, our next city faces a different threat from changing energy markets. Number 9. St. John, New Brunswick. It looks peaceful from a distance, historic buildings, ocean air, but take a closer look. This coastal city is quietly unraveling, and most Canadians don't even realize it's happening. St. John is heavily tied to Canada's energy exports, especially refined oil. Here's the eye-opener. The United States receives the majority of it. If demand drops or new tariffs disrupt trade, St. John won't just feel it, they'll live it, block by block. The Irving Oil Refinery, which processes over 300,000 barrels daily, employs thousands directly, and supports countless more businesses throughout the region. But it's not just about energy exports. The population is aging rapidly, and young workers are leaving for Halifax, Toronto, or Calgary. You'd be surprised how many storefronts are empty by noon on weekdays. The downtown core, once bustling with maritime commerce, now struggles to maintain basic retail activity. Recent trade tensions have already shown how vulnerable this setup really is. When pipeline disputes or refinery maintenance disruptions occurred in 2022 and 2023, local employment felt the impact within days. Contractors lost work, suppliers saw orders canceled, and service businesses watched their customer base shrink. The result? A city that depends on American energy demand while watching its own workforce disappear. It's a double vulnerability that few recognize until it's too late. Energy dependence isn't just a maritime problem. It's about to hit Canada's oil capital even harder. Number 8. Calgary, Alberta. At first glance, this city looks unstoppable. Towering office buildings, major corporations, wealth everywhere you turn. But take a few steps off the main strip and the cracks start to show. Calgary has long been considered the energy capital of Canada, but it's now one of the country's most economically vulnerable cities. Why? Because when oil sneezes, Calgary gets the flu. Over 22% of Calgary's GDP is tied directly to oil and gas. That's a staggering dependency, and in a world aggressively shifting toward green energy, it's a risk that feels more like a ticking time bomb. In 2020 alone, oil price shocks led to over 35,000 layoffs across Alberta. And guess what? Recovery hasn't been easy. Vacancy rates in downtown office towers have hovered around 30%, with entire floors sitting dark. But here's what might surprise you. It's not just about jobs. With fewer workers comes reduced tax revenue, and with reduced revenue, city services, infrastructure, even public safety budgets. Everything feels the pinch. You'd be shocked how many Calgarians now rely on food banks and assistance programs despite living in one of Canada's richest cities. The illusion of prosperity is still there, but peel it back and it's a very different story. And now, with the global push for cleaner energy and fewer fossil fuels, Calgary's future feels uncertain. Is it ready to adapt, or will it double down on an industry that might be leaving it behind? While Calgary deals with oil volatility, another Ontario city is watching its industrial backbone crumble. Number 7, Hamilton, Ontario. Once known as the steel backbone of Canada, this city built its legacy on strength, industry, and a hardworking population. But walk the streets today and something feels different. Hamilton is quietly slipping, and few are talking about it. The steel mills that once roared with life now operate at a fraction of their capacity. U.S. tariffs in recent years didn't just cut into profit margins. They triggered layoffs, shutdowns, and economic aftershocks that still linger. ArcelorMittal, Hamilton's largest steel producer, has shed thousands of jobs since 2018, and automation continues to eliminate positions that once supported entire neighborhoods. But it's not just steel. Manufacturing jobs across the board have vanished. And while redevelopment projects make headlines, many locals feel left behind. Housing costs have soared even as wages stagnate. Here's the eye-opener. Despite all its growth buzz, Hamilton's youth unemployment rate sits above the national average, and food insecurity has quietly risen by over 20% in just a few years. That's not just a blip, it's a warning. The Hamilton Food Share reports serving nearly 60,000 people monthly, a dramatic increase from pre-pandemic levels. Families who once relied on steady factory work now struggle to put food on the table. And if a national crash hits, this city doesn't have the industrial safety net it once relied on. What happens when a place that built Canada's economy starts struggling to support its own people? Manufacturing decline isn't limited to steel towns. Even in specialized resource cities are feeling the squeeze. Number 6, Saguenay, Quebec. It's peaceful, quiet, almost too quiet. The kind of place where you can hear the river from your front porch, but also hear the silence of an economy running out of steam. Saguenay isn't collapsing yet, but it's dangerously close to the edge. For decades, this city has thrived off one thing: aluminum. It's home to one of the largest aluminum production hubs in North America, responsible for about a quarter of Canada's total aluminum output. But here's the twist: over 80% of that aluminum goes straight to the United States. You don't have to be an economist to see the danger there. When tariffs hit in 2018, Saguenay felt it almost overnight. Prices dropped, orders slowed, and families who relied on those factory paychecks suddenly found themselves scrambling. Rio Tinto's Alma smelter, which employs over 1,000 workers directly, saw production schedules disrupted and contractor positions eliminated. But it's not just trade policies. The global demand for aluminum is shifting, and competitors overseas are pushing prices lower and lower. Saguenay is caught in the squeeze, and the population here is shrinking. The average age is rising as young people leave for Montreal or Quebec City. Why stay when opportunities outside aluminum are scarce? With fewer people comes less spending, less investment, and eventually, decline. One economic storm, and this entire city could face a chain reaction it can't stop. Is Saguenay a hidden gem or a ticking clock? Resource dependency creates similar risks across Quebec's industrial centers. Number 5, Trois-Rivières, Quebec. The streets here feel like they haven't changed in decades. Beautiful, yes, but behind the charm lies something you wouldn't expect. This historic city is struggling, and the reasons are quietly stacking up. Trois-Rivières was once a powerhouse of industry. Paper mills, aluminum smelters, and shipping docks kept the local economy humming for generations. But now those same industries are barely holding on. And the worst part? Most people outside Quebec don't even realize how fragile this place has become. You'd be amazed at how much Trois-Rivières still relies on manufacturing and resource-based exports. And many of those exports go south to the US. If demand drops or logistics break down, the ripple effects would be immediate. The Kruger paper mill, once employing over 800 workers, has cut production shifts multiple times since 2020. and Alcoa's aluminum operations have scaled back significantly. Let's talk demographics. The population here is aging rapidly, and the youth are moving to Montreal or Quebec City in search of better futures. In fact, the city's working-age population has dropped steadily over the past decade. With unemployment rates consistently above provincial averages and limited economic diversification, the local economy is walking a tightrope. Even slight economic turbulence could send it into a tailspin. But here's what really makes it vulnerable. It looks fine on the surface. No headlines, no panic, just slow-motion decline with no one pulling the emergency brake. Geographic isolation amplifies economic vulnerability, as our next city demonstrates. Number 4, Fort Nelson, British Columbia. You reach a point in the drive where the road is quiet, too quiet, no traffic, no gas stations, and then, like a ghost on the map, a community appears, clinging to survival. Fort Nelson sits deep in northern British Columbia, once booming from natural gas and forestry. But those industries? They've all but vanished. You'd be shocked how quickly things unraveled when major gas companies like Encana and Apache pulled out. Fort Nelson didn't just lose jobs, it lost families, services, and entire neighborhoods. The town's population plummeted by nearly 20% in a decade, and businesses followed. Schools have seen declining enrollment, with some classrooms sitting half empty, and many buildings downtown sit vacant, waiting for a rebound that hasn't come. The local hospital operates with reduced services, and when emergencies happen, help is over 1,000 kilometers away from the nearest major city. But here's what makes it worse. With few economic opportunities, everything becomes harder. Food costs 30 to 40% more than in Vancouver due to transportation expenses. Healthcare access is limited, utilities cost more to deliver, and when resources dry up, so does government interest. The people left behind are resilient but tired. There's even talk among some locals about whether the town will survive the next economic hit. Because when you're this far from everything, help doesn't exactly come quickly. What happens to a town when its reason for existing disappears? Fort Nelson may already be showing us the answer. Distance isn't the only challenge. Some cities face unique structural problems. Number 3, St. Catharines, Ontario. You wouldn't think it, driving down the vineyard-lined highways or strolling the old downtown core. But underneath the charm, this city is quietly cracking, and the signs are getting harder to ignore. St. Catharines was once a manufacturing titan, anchored by General Motors. But over the years, the jobs dried up, and with them, the economic lifeblood of the region. When GM's engine plant closed its doors in 2010, it took nearly 1,500 direct jobs and thousands more indirect positions with it. The ripple effect is still being felt today. You'd be surprised to learn that St. Catharines now has one of the highest unemployment rates in southern Ontario, with many residents commuting to Hamilton or Toronto just to make ends meet. And while the real estate market ballooned during the pandemic, wages didn't follow. The result? A growing affordability crisis in a city that used to be blue-collar affordable. But it's not just the economics, it's identity. A place that once knew exactly what it was now seems stuck in limbo, trying to reinvent itself with tourism and culture, but without the funding to fully get there. Young people are leaving, infrastructure is aging, and public transit struggles to keep up. While Niagara Falls gets all the attention and tourist dollars, St. Catharines is often left in its shadow, underfunded, overlooked, and slowly unraveling. If a national recession hits, this city could be one of the first to fall into deeper trouble because when your safety net is already worn thin, even the smallest tear can cause everything to collapse. Structural challenges become even more complex when cities span provincial borders. Number 2, Lloydminster, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. You cross the street, and just like that, you're in another province. 2 sets of rules, 2 economies, 1 city. Sounds fascinating, right? But what if this unique setup isn't a strength, but a trap? Strength. Lloydminster may be Canada's only border-straddling city, but it's walking a financial tightrope, and the net underneath is wearing thin. On paper, this place sounds like a dream, located on the Alberta-Saskatchewan border, technically belonging to both provinces. That means 2 tax systems, 2 provincial governments, and a whole lot of confusion when things go wrong. And recently, they've been going wrong fast. Nearly everything here, jobs, housing, investment, is connected to the upstream petroleum industry. When the oil market soars, Lloydminster booms, but when prices drop, it's like the entire city goes quiet overnight. During the 2014 oil crash, thousands of jobs were lost in this region. People packed up and left, homes sat vacant, and some businesses never reopened. But here's the border problem. Most cities only deal with one provincial government. Lloydminster deals with 2. Different rules for business licenses, healthcare discrepancies, education regulations, even infrastructure funding becomes a tangled mess of jurisdictional red tape. It's confusing for residents, frustrating for business owners, and exhausting for city planners trying to attract outside investment. The result? Companies hesitate, developers back off, and locals, especially young workers, start looking for a way out. Youth retention here is alarmingly low, with many leaving for Edmonton or Saskatoon as soon as they finish school. Individual cities face serious challenges, but entire regions can be at risk. Number 1, Alberta West Region. The drive takes you through towering evergreens, over mountain passes, past sleepy towns tucked between rivers and ridgelines. It feels wild, raw, beautiful, but beneath the scenery lies a reality many never see until it's too late. The Alberta West region, stretching from Hinton to Grande Cache, is breathtaking and dangerously vulnerable. At first glance, you wouldn't suspect a problem. The Rockies bring tourists, the land is rich in resources, but those same strengths are turning into risks. Let's start with Grande Cache. Once a bustling coal town, it saw thousands of workers flood in during its peak, but since Grande Cache Coal shut down its major operations in 2017, the community has been fighting to stay afloat. Some workers moved away, businesses closed, and the economy hasn't recovered. Many homes are up for sale at prices far below their worth. Further south, Hinton clings to tourism and pulp production, but the future is uncertain. The Hinton pulp mill has seen fluctuating output and layoffs as automation and global competition take their toll. With younger generations leaving for Edmonton or Calgary, entire pockets of the region have emptied out in the last 10 years. What's worse? Infrastructure is stretched thin. Healthcare access is a major concern. Ambulance wait times exceed provincial averages by over 30%. And then there's wildfire risk. The entire region has been flagged as high risk after 2023's record-breaking season. What happens when natural beauty can't protect against economic reality and climate threats converging all at once?